Julia stood at the edge of the small wooden porch, the early morning light stretching across the fields like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. The air was still, carrying only the distant hum of waking life. She wrapped her sweater tighter around her shoulders, not from the cold, but from the weight of everything they had been building together. "We are moving toward our goal," she whispered to herself, as if saying it aloud would make it more real. Just a few years ago, everything had felt uncertain. New country, new life, new expectations. There were days when the future looked like a puzzle with missing pieces, but now, standing here, she could finally see the shape of it forming piece by piece, step by step. Inside the house, she could hear the soft clatter of dishes and a familiar voice calling out, "Julia, coffee is ready." She smiled. "Coming," she called back, her voice lighter than it used to be. That lightness hadn't come easily. It had been earned through long nights, difficult conversations, moments of doubt, and the courage to keep going anyway. A dream that didn't start perfectly. When Julia first arrived, everything felt overwhelming: the language, the culture, the expectations. It all pressed against her like a storm she hadn't fully prepared for. She remembered the first time she tried to explain her dream. "I want something of my own," she had said, sitting at the kitchen table, hands wrapped tightly around a cup of tea. "Something I build, something that reflects me." There had been hesitation in the room, not doubt exactly, but uncertainty. "Like what?" came the question. She paused. "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I will." And that was the moment everything began. Finding purpose in unexpected places. It wasn't a grand idea at first. It didn't come with fireworks or a perfectly mapped out plan. It started with something simple, something real. Dogs. Not just pets, but companions, family members, sources of unconditional love. Julia had always believed that animals deserved more than the bare minimum. They deserved care, attention, and products made with intention, not shortcuts. "Why isn't there something better?" she had asked one evening, scrolling through endless options online. "Better how?" came the reply. "More honest, more thoughtful, more heart." That word stayed with her. Heart. The birth of an idea. That night, she couldn't sleep. Ideas came in waves, messy, imperfect, but alive. What if we created something different? Not just another brand, but something meaningful. Something that people could trust. Something built not just for profit, but for purpose. She grabbed her notebook and started writing. Names, concepts, sketches, dreams. One phrase stood out: Kingdom for Dogs. It felt bold, almost too bold. But also, right. The hard part nobody sees. People love to celebrate success, but they rarely see what it takes to get there. The late nights. The arguments. The moments of doubt that creep in when everything feels like it's falling apart. "There were times I wanted to quit," Julia admitted later. "Times I thought maybe this was too big for me." But every time she got close to giving up, something pulled her back. A message from someone who believed in her. An order, small, but meaningful. A reminder of why she started. "We're not just building a business," she said one evening, determination in her eyes. "We're building something that matters." The power of support. Support didn't always come in loud, obvious ways. Sometimes it was quiet. A shared glance that said, "Keep going." A simple "I believe in you." A hand reaching out when everything felt too heavy. And then there were the supporters, the people who discovered their journey and decided to be part of it. Every order meant something. Every message mattered. Every bit of encouragement became fuel. "Thank you all for your support," Julia wrote one night, her fingers hovering over the keyboard before she hit post. "Your orders, your faith in our family, it means more than you know." She wasn't just saying it. She felt it. Building something bigger than themselves. As time passed, Kingdom for Dogs became more than just an idea. It became real. Packages being shipped. Customers sharing photos. Stories being told. Each one a reminder that they weren't alone in this journey. "We're creating a community," Julia said one afternoon, watching as another order was prepared. Not just selling products, but connecting people who care. And that realization changed everything. Because when something becomes bigger than you, it becomes unstoppable. The moment everything shifted. There's always a moment, the one where things start to feel different. Not easier, but clearer. For Julia, it came on an ordinary day. She was reading through messages from customers, stories about dogs who had found comfort, joy, or simply a little extra happiness because of something they created. She paused. Tears filled her eyes. "This is it," she whispered. "This is why we do it. Not for recognition. Not for validation. But for impact. Moving toward the goal." Now, standing on that same porch, Julia took a deep breath. The journey wasn't over. Not even close. But for the first time, she wasn't just hoping things would work out. She knew they were on the right path. "We are moving toward our goal together," she said again, louder this time. And she meant together. Because this wasn't just her dream anymore. It belonged to everyone who believed in it. Everyone who supported it. Everyone who became part of the story. The road ahead. Inside, the coffee was getting cold. Life was still happening. There were still challenges ahead. More risks. More uncertainty. But also more growth. More connection. More purpose. Julia turned back toward the door, pausing for just a moment before stepping inside. Because she understood something now that she hadn't before. The goal wasn't just a destination. It was the journey itself. The lessons. The struggles. The victories, big and small. All of it mattered. A message from the heart. Later that day, she sat down and began to write. Not as a business owner. Not as a public figure. But as a person. "Thank you," she typed. Then paused. Deleted it. Started again. "Thank you all for your support, your orders, and your faith in our family." She stopped, letting the words settle. "And in our dream." Because that's what it really was. A dream shared, supported, and slowly becoming reality. And it continues. The story isn't finished. It's still being written every day, with every choice, every challenge, every act of courage. And maybe that's the most powerful part. Not the success. Not the recognition. But the fact that they kept going. That they chose to believe. That they built something together. Julia closed her notebook and smiled. "Let's keep going," she said softly. And this time, there was no hesitation. Only forward.